For me, the real elephant in the room is not really Mike Brown. It's not really Cat. We just saw Trae Young get traded because apparently defensively he's so bad, it's untenable. You can't win with the small guards, blah, blah, blah. Becky Hammond said a few years back, and she's been getting roasted for this when the Knicks won the in-season tournament. Can't win with a small guard like Jalen Brunson. You're not going to win. Jalen Brunson, in my opinion, is one of the worst defenders in the NBA. Easy. At what point do we start exploring that maybe you can't win with a Jalen Brunson type player, like a Trae Young type player, maybe a Ja Morant type player, or whatever. Maybe you can't win with a player who's that bad defensively, is that undersized, commands the ball, commands touches. Is that something worth exploring?
Like, yes, Mars. The reason when we start having this conversation is, to your point, in the offseason. Because Jalen Brunson has been there. I want to say he showed up in what, 22?
What?
No, he wasn't there in 21 with Julius Randle. He showed up. I want to say he showed up in 22. So he's been there 4 years. He showed up
after the Mavericks went to the conference finals. So the next year, 22, 23.
So in 22, 22, 23, 22, 23, 23, 24.
He's in his fourth year in New York.
We're in year 4 now with him, right? So, okay, he's 28 years old. We're not going to get anything more from him as a defender. Like, he's not going to turn into an elite defender. He's not going to turn into a solid defender. He probably is who he is on the defensive side of the basketball, right? So, okay, what Tibbs has implemented was a style of play that works. And to your point, Mars, they won the conference championship last year. Even as deficient as they were as a defense with Cat, with Jalen Brunson, they were in the conference championship. So maybe, how about we sit Tibbs down and we discuss his rotations instead of firing him? Because this thing looked like it was working. Like this didn't look like this doesn't look like something where we just got to completely change the system, because Brunson is who he is. Cat is who he is. Okay, coach, maybe we need to dig into the bench a little bit more. Maybe we shouldn't have 3 of your 5 starters in the top 5 in the league in minutes. That might not be a good idea. That might not be conducive to winning, coach. Maybe we should do something different and get you some more rotation players that could be more conducive to your system and help you win a little bit more, as opposed to bringing in Mike Brown and changing the system and making Cat look, for lack of a better term, real talk, ordinary, because he's not an ordinary big. He isn't.
Sure, ironically, this is the offseason where they went and got that help. They went and got Yabusele. They went and got Jordan Clarkson. They still got Shamit. They got what's his name? Tyler Kolek. Not to say that Thibodeau would have played Kolek, but now Kolek is actually playing and producing. Like, they actually have the deepest team. Mitchell Robinson, whether he's coming off the bench or not, they actually have one of the deepest teams that they've had since Jalen Brunson has been there. And now Thibodeau's not there.
Yeah, I don't think the depth would be ventured as much if Tom Thibodeau was still there right now. There's always another end to a story. But as far as Karl Anthony Towns, it actually reminds me of a conversation that we were having at the beginning of the season. And Chill was upset about Karl Anthony Towns because Karl Anthony Towns was hurt. And it was the season opener. Mm-hmm. And he was questionable. And we had the conversation, and I remember saying then, hey, Karl Anthony Towns, if he's dealing with, I think what was it, like a hamstring or something like that?
Yeah, it was a groin injury.
Growing injury? I know it was a pretty serious.
It was a muscle thing.
Ailment. Pretty serious ailment. And what I said then was, okay, number one, we didn't like what he was saying coming into the season. He was like, I don't know my role on this team offensively. That was a quote that we got before the season even started.
Correct.
But I also remember having the convo about, hey, do we just sit Cat down now, right? And just have him try to heal up the ailment, or does Cat decide to try to play through it? And he's tried to play through it, and we see what Cat's
You think this is affecting him? You think that the injury is still affecting him? Real talk? Even today?
I think when you try to play through an injury, I'm pretty sure we're not going to get the best version of yourself when you're doing that.
And you think it spilled over into the rest? And you think this spilled over?
I do think this is spilled over into some of his play. Absolutely. I do know that he's being used differently in the offensive system this year for sure, but even things that he usually does well, he's not doing well right now, right? He's not even like shooting the 3 ball as good as Cat usually shoots. Things of that nature. I would like to attribute that, in my opinion, to him. I don't think he started the season off healthy, and I think he's trying to play through some ailments right now.
Well, it's interesting, Mars, that you brought up that win streak that they had. I mean, they had won 10 they had won 10 out of 12 right before they went on this losing streak. Literally, right before they went on this losing streak, they had won 10 of their last 12, and we weren't really having a conversation about the sky is falling in New York because they were winning. Yes, they were beating the teams that they were supposed to beat, but they still were winning, even with Jalen Brunson going out of the line.
But that's why, Chill, I think that the way in which they've fallen has been so sort of jarring and it's garnered so much attention because they were playing good ball. But now, like, I'm not all the way there on the panic stations. I think to Ox's point, like, we are in the dog days of the season and they're going to turn it around. Like, if they beat Brooklyn tonight, maybe that's the thing that gets their season back on track. But it's the way in which you lose. You know, they can't, to Mars's point, they can't guard a soul. You know, their home fans are booing. They're getting booed at home because of their lack of effort. And on a basketball court at Madison Square Garden, there's nowhere to hide. And if you're not giving good effort, the crowd's going to tell you about it. So it's not so much the losing streak itself. It's the turnaround. It's the way they've been losing. It's the lack of effort. It's some of the weird post game comments, like how Cat's saying this is a different team than last year because last year we had Cameron Payne. Like it's just bizarre little things that are, you know, players only meetings. All these little things that are happening that has the Knicks fans upset. But I think there's two things here as well, Chill. I think that you made an interesting point earlier around Cat and Mike Brown, whereas Mike Brown was operating with a completely different big in Sabonis in Sacramento, and he seemed to maximize him in a lot of ways by using him as a hub, and Cat's a different type of skill set. But I'm not all the way there yet on the Jalen Brunson stuff, Mars, in terms of exploring him in a trade or anything like that. But I think it's an intriguing conversation to maybe think about. If they can't get it done this year, I think that conversation will definitely start.
Well, the question, Mars, that needs to be answered is at what point do we have this conversation? Because again, he's been there 4 years, and in the 4 years that he's been there, they broke down. I think the second year they broke down, and he ended up in the conference semifinals in Game 7. No, last year, not last year, year before last, they broke down against Indiana, and then they ended up losing because Tibbs was basically running them dudes into the ground, if we're being honest. And then last year they were in the East Finals, but Brunson actually has been playing really well. So if you're gonna build your unit around a small guard who isn't that good defensively, who needs the basketball, if I'm gonna build my unit around that, then I'm gonna put players who can supplement him. What I mean when I say supplement him, guys like OG Anunoby, guys like Mikal Bridges, who will defend, who will rebound, who will make up for the stuff that he doesn't do. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not giving him a pass and saying that he doesn't have to do any of these things, because I do have to get effort. And Jalen Brunson will give me effort. I think that he was leading the league in charges, so he will give me some effort on the defensive end. That's not a question. The problem that I have is when teams actively hunt him and he dies on screens, or he actively gets hunted in one-on-one situations, and there's really not anything that we can do about that. Well, how do we supplement that? The way we supplement that is by holding these guys to one shot, because not everybody's going to score on him every time. He is going to give you some effort. We got to rebound, and we got to keep the pressure on that. We got to keep the pressure on that defense by attacking them offensively. So I'm not saying, Mars, that I'm not interested in it, but to be honest with you, I'm sure that there's a conversation in New York in that front office about, is this something that we should be talking about?
Wait a second. I'm sorry. Forgive my language. Forgive my language. Are y'all out of your fucking mind? We're not, you're not trading Jalen Brunson.
Thank you. We ain't going way too far.
Not. Absolutely not.
Was that a real
trade Trae Young? Why not trade Jalen Brunson?
Damn Trae Young. This is not about Trae Young, Ron. Stay focused.
John Morant's on the trade block. Why not Jalen Brunson?
John Morant compared to Jalen Brunson is a bum. John Morant is a bum compared to Jalen Brunson, okay? You don't trade Jalen Brunson. If you have to trade anybody, it's obviously Cat. But you don't. I don't think they have to trade anybody. You know what I'm saying? I think they're fine.
I
I think they
agree.
could work. I think they could work through this. I think they have a good shot at winning the East this year. I think they can all buy into each other. Mike Brown can buy into them. They can buy into Mike Brown. They can work this thing out. They got a good squad. They got depth. They got what you need. They're on a little. Like I said, in the last 10 games, they've lost 8. Okay, cool. Now we're gonna panic and act like this is something crazy. They'll be okay. Come March, they'll be right back at the 2 seed. You know, everything will be okay. We're not not we, but I'm saying like let's say if I'm speaking from a front office person. Obviously, y'all know I'm not like
we in the front office right now. Ox. We're having a front office meeting.
We aren't trading Jalen Brunson, and if any of y'all keep talking that shit, pack your shit. You go. Okay, you go. Jalen, who you gonna trade Jalen Brunson for?
You said Hugo? So trade him to Brunson? Or trade him to the Celtics?
I don't know. There's only
Hugo
what? Even if we go on the more controversial end, there's only what? 14 players you could get, Ox, that are better than Jalen Brunson if you were to trade him.
But at the point guard position, though,
at best, and at the point guard position, there's what?
Well, first of all,
there's a
maybe
conversation.
3 better.
Not even better, but there's a conversation of about maybe 5 or 6 guys that you could say, and 3 of those guys are untouchable, aren't getting traded. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So it's like it's not, you know, no, 4 of those guys. I forgot about Cade. 4 of those guys aren't getting touched.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like what? And I'm gonna say this name, and I know y'all don't agree with me, but the only other guy that's in that realm or tier of basketball players, De'Aaron Fox, and it's like, what's the point of that? You know what I'm saying? There's no point. He's a much better defender than Jalen Brunson. I agree with that, but I'm, you know, like why? You know what I'm saying? There's just really no reason to do that.
I don't think Mars was like, let's trade him. I think Mars's point was the concept of, can you win with him? And I think it's one of those things that's been sort of topical in the league, like, can you win with a small guard? And if they don't win this year, I think that conversation might start happening. Look, I think it's probably going to happen with Cat more than it would with Brunson, because he's beloved and he's taken pay cuts, and, you know, he's been a sort of perennial all-star and things of that nature. But it's the same situation in Cleveland, Chill. Like, if they don't win this year, Darius Garland is probably getting moved. They're probably going to have to make a decision on if Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley are the duo that want to take them forward. Like, these conversations will start happening because the landscape of the league has made the margin for error so small with guys that have clear deficiencies. So I don't think any of us want Jalen Brunson to be traded, but the concept of winning with him in our minds now, given the landscape, is actually harder than ever. So
but that concept
it can
to
create
me, I think you brought up.
Who doesn't want Jalen Brunson to be traded?
You said what?
I'm taking a vote.
We think that's a bad idea, Ron. We think that's a bad idea.
I was saying, opposite question. Who wants him to be traded?
You're the only Nimrod.
You don't want
nobody. The concept of can you win with Jalen Brunson? Like, to me, number one, I think we keep bringing up players that he's like a way better than. Like we just said, Darius Garland. Salute to Quick D-Lo. Jalen Brunson clears Darius Garland as a player. He clears Trae Young. Quick D-Lo is Darius Garland. He clears Trae Young. He clears Ja Morant. Like, he's way better than these players that we keep questioning about, like small guards. In my opinion, this is just a concept of, can you win with a player who is so offensively talented, who is also lacking defensively. Right now, I think the better comp is, like, at this point, this is more comparable to, can you win with Luka Doncic? Can you win with Donovan Mitchell? More than, you know, we bringing up these names like Ja Morant and Trae Young and Darius. Like, he's way better than them. Way better.
I only said Trae Young because we've seen Trae get traded.
Sure.
I
know. We all agree Brunson's better than him. But the concept is still the same. And the question has been asked about Luka Doncic too. Can you win? And I would say Luka is clearly a better defender than Jalen Brunson. But I don't know. Maybe that's a hot take. But when it comes to Jalen Brunson, he's small, undersized, doesn't force turnovers, other than like the charges. But then I would say Luka also draws charges, but no one's using that to prop up Luka's defense. He doesn't make any plays at the rim. Like he does. Like you have to hide him, and then we see in playoff series. Like once you get further in the playoff, and yeah, the Knicks can get to the conference finals because like they're better and Brunson is better than the other guys that we spoke about. But you get to certain series, you get against better teams. You can't just keep hiding people like that. It just doesn't work. We watched the Pacers,
but we would have thought that against
into every action.
But we would have thought that against Boston, right? That would have been a typical, prototypical team to defeat New York in a way that we thought New York would be defeated, because Boston in 24, we know that team with Brown and Tatum, they hunt mismatches, they go in isolation once they get the mismatch, and you're just hoping that they can string together enough stops because you believe in them offensively. And sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it doesn't. But against Boston, there were plenty of isolations that Cat had to guard.
Yeah, but I would say that plays more into Brunson's hands and that's why I think the Pacers were able to exploit him more than Boston could. And this is why it's like in individual series, yeah, you can get through it because like each series presents its different matchup. Yeah. But in order to win a championship, you have to win 4 series, which means you're going up against 4 different matchups. And do you think Brunson can be tenable in 4 different defensive matchups?
And the teams Boston was too, by the way.
Boston was slower, more methodical, mismatch hunting Brunson in particular. And I would argue Brunson held up well defensively in that series because he was able to get under people, use his strength, and that's his one thing he has going for him on defense. His strength, use his strengths, get up under you, force you into some tough mid-range jump shots. He did that well. And then he comes up against the Pacers team that play completely different. 0.5 basketball, as people like to say, bringing Brunson into every action and moving the ball consistently, and Brunson's not making rotations. And if he does, and you got Brunson as a low man, he's not making no plays at the rim. Cat can't guard in space. Cat can't guard the rim, and you end up being in this constant blender on defense. Like that's the problem. In order to win a championship, you have to go through a bunch of different offenses.
Yeah.
And can Brunson and Cat hold up against a bunch of different offenses? Can they hold up against a Pistons offense, and then they have to go see a Boston offense, and then they have to go see a Philly offense, like for example, and then they have to go see a Miami offense, which is completely different? Do you trust those guys to hold up against the run of the playoffs? And me, it's like, I think that's a question worth exploring. Now, I wouldn't trade Brunson. He doesn't make enough to where it's justifiable. Brunson's 34. Brunson is paid too little compared to the caliber of player he is. So whatever you get back is going to be worse than Brunson. So I wouldn't trade him, but I would be looking at what do we have to do to actually make a defense viable with Brunson on the court. Like the numbers say the defense is way better when Brunson's off the floor. Like the numbers say the Knicks are better as a team when Brunson's off the floor, but that's entirely because of defense. Because they have like a 109 defense with Brunson on the floor, with Brunson off the floor in the last 2 years. They have a 118 when he's on the floor. That's terrible. That's one.
And there's nobody that thinks the Knicks are better with Brunson on the floor.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying they're better without Brunson, but I am saying like the defense is a major concern, regular season and playoffs.
With that being said, real talk, and really quick, I want you to hold on to your point really quick. I want you guys to understand, because you made the comparison with the Boston Celtics. I actually made the comparison with the Denver Nuggets, because with both Joker and Jamal Murray, both of those guys defensively aren't great, but offensively, they were just otherworldly. And that's really all you, and that's what you need. I'm not going to say that's all you need, because that's not like milk that you just go pick up at the market, right? No, it takes a lot to be otherworldly when you're in the playoffs. But that's what it's going to take from this Knicks team in order for them to be an NBA champion. Because again, if you're not rotating, if you're not rebounding, if you're missing assignments, other teams, when you get into the playoffs, as you go deeper into the playoffs, you run up against better teams. They're going to exploit that, and they're not going to let you off the hook. They're going to keep doing it. So if you're not going to rotate, if you're not going to rebound, if you're not going to stay in front of a guy, that's going to get exploited, and you're going to get exposed for how weak you are. So to your point, I'm not saying trade Brunson. What I am saying, though, is there is a conversation, Ron, where we're sitting down and going, what are we doing with Jalen Brunson moving forward? What's the plan with him moving forward?
It's the panel. Religion get built on cam. Where the chat throw smoke and the host go ham. You ain't never seen hoops out hit the raw. Every take got weight, every night we drop. This that barbershop. Courtside, worldwide tone. Welcome to the only show that really feel like numbers jumping like the score.